Chapter 11. Strain and Strife. Bright and early next morning, Father and Uncle Analdus started work on the new storeroom. The gloomy lethargy that had wrapped all the residents of the hill was completely gone. Mother bustled cheerily about her housework, at times even humming a bar or two of little Georgie's song. Hazel and her 3 chatterers were sent home with many thanks from Mother and Father, and ill-concealed pleasure on the part of Uncle Analdus. "Now maybe a feller can get a rest once in a while, 'thout havin' his ding-blasted ears shouted off," he grunted, shoveling busily. As the days went by and the storeroom progressed, only one worry marred the general happiness. Willie Fieldmouse had never been able to catch another glimpse of little Georgie. Each night he faithfully climbed the rain barrel and peered into the living room, but the folks had an upstairs sitting room now and seemed to spend most of their evenings there. All the animals kept their eyes and ears open, but none ever heard or saw a trace of little Georgie. That he was still there they felt sure, for early each morning the lady gathered a small basket of dew-soaked clover, carrot tops, fresh young lettuce leaves, or tender pea vines. From the quantity she gathered, they judged not only that Georgie was there, but that his appetite was excellent. The days merged into weeks with still no news. Midsummer's Eve was not far off, and the mounting anxiety caused tempers to grow short. In the case of Father and Uncle Analdus, this irritability was increased by their unskilled attempts at carpentry. The storeroom shelves, which little Georgie could have built so easily, took them days and days, and cost many pounded paws. When finished, the lopsided and rickety results seemed hardly worth the pain and labor they had spent on them. After pounding his thumb for the 4th time in succession, Uncle Analdus threw down his hammer in a rage and went off to visit with Porky. Irritation and worry had gradually caused a dark suspicion to take root in his mind, and he now proceeded to voice it. "Do you know," he said, "I don't trust these here new folks, not none. I'm plumb worried about little Georgie. Do you know what I think? What I think is they're holding him for a hostage. That's what they're doing. Mark my words now, come midsummer night and the first time airy one of us touches airy one of their ding-blasted vegetables, they'll torture him. That's what they'll do. Or maybe do away with him complete. They may be a-torturing him right now," he went on gloomily, "a-torturing and a-teasing and a-prying and a-trying to make him tell all about us, where our burrows is and all, so's they can set out poison and traps and spring guns. And how about them sticks tied onto his legs Willie was telling about? Some kind of torture machines likely. No, sir, I don't trust 'em. Don't trust that ding-blasted old cat neither. I'll kick him in the face yet." Uncle Analdus's suspicions of foul play rapidly spread among the other animals and soon resulted in a bitter controversy. Mother and Father and the Red Buck refused to believe anything so evil of the new folks, and were supported by the Gray Fox and Fewey, who both felt sure that folks who set out such bountiful garbage must be in all ways kind and good. But many of the other animals were inclined to side with Uncle Analdus. Arguments and quarrels grew more and more frequent. As usual, many wild and sinister rumors were circulated. Lights had been seen in the folks' sitting room at late hours. Strange sounds had been heard. The opossum, a notorious liar, claimed to have heard little Georgie screaming in pain. To make things worse, the spring rains came. Day after day, the low-hanging black clouds came scudding in from the east, rolling across the valley and spilling incessant showers. A chilling northeast wind blew. Mist and dampness seeped down into the best-built burrows. On the walls, mildew and fungus appeared, roofs leaked, and chimneys smoked. The housebound animals shivered and hugged their hearths. It was good weather for gardens, but bad for dispositions. Each day, through mud and drizzle, Father tramped the hill, seeking tidings of little Georgie, returning drenched, mud-spattered, and somber. All day Uncle Ronaldus crouched over the fire, smoking his reeking pipe and muttering wild and gloomy forebodings. It was only natural that they should eventually quarrel. Bitter words were spoken. Mother wept as copiously as the driving clouds, and Uncle Ronaldus wrathfully stamped from the burrow to take up his abode with Porky. There he became the ringleader of the rebellious element and spent his days adding fuel to the fires of suspicion and hate. Even Porky had to admit that he seemed to be slightly tetched, but the more ignorant animals eagerly swallowed every fantastic suspicion and became more and more worked up. Some of the more violent even suggested that the rules of the hill be thrown aside, and that without waiting for Midsummer's Eve they at once lay waste the gardens and lawns, the buckwheat field and the flower borders, that they ruthlessly slaughter every chick and duckling, every hen and rooster. At a painfully stormy meeting, it required all Father's eloquence and all the redbuck's authority to persuade the animals to abide by their ancient rules and customs. A shift in the wind and clearing weather also helped somewhat in soothing frayed nerves and strained relations. For some time now, Louis Kernstock had been working at something up near the end of the garden. It was a lovely spot, a tiny circular lawn, sheltered by a great pine tree and sloping down into the rock garden. There were 2 stone benches there where the folks often sat on warm evenings, a custom which prevented the animals from thoroughly inspecting Louis's handiwork. There was considerable speculation as to what it could be, but Uncle Ronaldus soon had an explanation for it. "They're a-buildin' a dungeon," he shouted. "They're a-buildin' a dungeon for little Georgie. That's what they're a-doin', and they'll put him into it behind big iron bars, and he'll be a-pinin' there, and every time airy one of us touches a ding-blasted vegetable, they'll a-torture him and jab him and starve him, and maybe pour boilin' oil onto him." So Midsummer's Eve drew near in a seething atmosphere of suspicion, fear, and general unpleasantness. This was all added to by the arrival of a long and very heavy wooden packing case. It came on Tim McGrath's truck, and it took the combined efforts of Tim, Louis, the man, and several helpers to unload it and move it on rollers to the little lawn under the pine tree where Louis's work was going on. At once, Uncle Ronaldus started a new rumor. "Traps and spring guns," he announced. "That's what's in that there box. Traps and spring guns, and likely poisons and gases." Whatever was in it was unpacked with a great deal of hammering. Louis and his helpers were very busy for a day or 2 more, with the folks continually stirring around and in and out. It was not until the afternoon of the eve that the work was finished. Everything was cleaned up neatly, and whatever had been done was covered by one of Louis's canvas tarpaulins. Something stood up in the center, making the canvas look rather like a tent as it shone there in the sunset light. Porky and Uncle Ronaldus regarded it suspiciously from a safe distance up the hillside. "It's a gallows," Uncle Ronaldus pronounced in a another word I might have to look up, sepulchral whisper. "It's a gallows, that's what it is, and they're a-going to hang poor little Georgie onto it." Until next time.